Hi, good morning. This is Marie Gibson, and I'm here to help you make the right thing easy, especially when it comes to accounting. Now, this little bit of snip is how to really keep our receipts. Why do we keep our receipts? Where's the best place to store our receipts? Some of the issues that come up with saving those receipts. And again, this is a lighthearted way of making your life as a business owner easy. If you're doing it yourself, that's one decision. But if you have spouse or a spouse or more than one spouse, I suppose, or employees or volunteers, sometimes we have to think through what the system looks like in order to get them to keep those receipts. And it is important to keep those. And we will have that conversation in a few minutes. We're going to wrap that conversation and set it aside while we talk about some of the ideas for saving receipts. And many of you know, you saw some of my Facebook posts about Johnny helping to look for receipts. This time of the year, we're all hunting for those last little receipts that we know we need, or we need to bring our accounting system to the end, wrap up our systems, wrap up our reports for either for budgeting and planning purposes, for tax purposes, but we will need to keep those receipts. And as you know, I don't provide tax advice, but the rule of thumb is to keep those for 3 years, plus the current year. All right, so how do you do that? Especially when the little chit or the little receipt or the little piece of paper starts fading. So we're going to talk about the manual way of keeping receipts, whether we're involved or others are involved. And then we're going to talk about some more technologically advanced ways of keeping receipts. And there's no right or wrong. It's whatever it is we need to do to make the right thing easy in your environment. So my choice might be different than a choice that a farmer or rancher makes, which might be different than somebody in a retail operation. It's that whole let's keep and make the right thing easy for the people that we're working with. So there is the old-fashioned way. Oh, I need to make the right thing easy. One of my little friends needs to go outside. I hardly ever will break a video like that. So we'll see if I can actually pick up like slice and dice in the middle there. So anyway, we have the receipts, and saving receipts is necessary, of course, for tax purposes. And if you're ever audited, either by the state, our state agencies, when they do a sales tax audit, they'll often ask for the receipt, not just the statement, not a bank statement, not a credit card statement. They want the receipt. So multiple things are happening while that goes on, but sometimes the receipts actually fade. So we might use a scanner, we might use our phones, and then upload those to a place in the cloud to keep. Or we might just save them in folders and hope that they last for 3 years. So as Johnny was helping us look for our receipts, if you're in a trucking situation where you have multiple employees or a spouse or you're traveling a lot, a clipboard is one of the easiest ways I've found. However, there were additional suggestions that I heard from my Facebook groups, and I wanted to share those with you today. So there's the folders in the trucks, like actually having a file folder in the truck, or using the center console exclusively for the receipts. Now, with that said, there were also some very creative ways of using plastic jars. So of course, there was no way that the water could damage those receipts. Or the Ziploc bags, the bags with the zip that closes. And I thought, what a great idea that is. Or some people use a little file box in their rigs to keep those. And so I was just thrilled that there were multiple ways. Somebody else suggested a plastic expandable file folder that has that little wrap around it. And then you could actually put your receipt in the category, in the color category, as it's coming in. So I was like, all right, there's a few extra simple suggestions of making the right thing easy right there. If you're in a warehousing or a barn situation, if you can get a file folder on the wall with folders that are in, like maybe one of those hanging file folder wall hangers, and put the file folders in there, colored ones, you can use metal clips like magnetic. My barn happens to be magnetic, and so, or it happens to be metal, so the magnetic clips work really well. Or a big plastic tub, or again, a binder. Or some people, of course, recommended the shoe box, the boot box, the beer box. Those are always fun suggestions, right? As long as you have a central location to keep those receipts. And if you can keep them organized, that's even better. Because as we learned, if you take 15 minutes a week to take care of your accounting, that just means at the end of the year, there's not a whole lot to do other than the summarizing. So if you skip that 15 minutes a week and you multiply that by 52 weeks, that's over a day and a half come January or February or March or however long you put off that organizing. That's a lot of time. So again, we're trying to save ourselves time. We're trying to become more convenient. We're trying to make the right thing simple. So when we talked about these manual ways of keeping the receipts, then I had several people write in on my Facebook post and comment on. I had probably over 100 people comment on my posts with different ideas for saving those receipts, all looking at trying to make the right thing easy. So let's talk about the more technologically advanced ways. I'm going to name names. I'm going to name brand names, and so hopefully I'm not being criticized. I don't make any money off of referring these services or products, but Google Drives, you know, putting docs up. One of the gals says that she actually has permanent folders in Google Drives, and it has subfolders for assets and subfolders for loan documents and major equipment purchases. She actually uses it for employees and sub-employees, sub-file folders. If there were confidential information on those employees, I might find a more secure location. And somebody might then write back and say, oh, Marie, Google Docs is totally secure. And I'd be like, okay. So those are decisions you have to make for yourself. I won't give that level of recommendation here in a public forum, but having some sort of organized structure. This gal also keeps a separate file folder for vendors that she uses. So others will do it by category, right? So categories or accounts, like in a chart of accounts for your accounting system. Most accounting systems call accounts. Some of them, like QuickBooks Online, calls them categories. Doesn't matter what you call them, right? We don't want to use those terminologies and those names as a stumbling block. We want to use them as a launching point to make our life simpler. So if you use a little subfolder and you have a category name, great, call it by that category name, call it by the account name. And again, some people snap pictures with their phone. We have smartphones. Some of my friends don't have smartphones. Some of my, I won't say older because they're now my age as well, but that's just not something they've ever been attracted to doing, is using their phone for a lot of that. So Amazon Storage, again, is another location. The QuickBooks Desktop, so you can scan and then attach receipts into your QuickBooks Desktop software. And then that receipt will be there until you actually stop using the software. QuickBooks Online, and you can use the Snap feature on your phone. And if you have the QuickBooks Online app, it will load and attach from right there. Keep in mind, if you ever need to change software, the QuickBooks Online software, you download those pictures one by one by one. Or if you change software and you no longer wish to use QuickBooks Online, which I support QuickBooks Online thoroughly. However, that's a little bit of information you might want to know, is you cannot, at this time, you cannot batch download all of those receipts that you had in QuickBooks Online. Once you snap pictures, other people gave me ideas that they use. I'll just go through the list. and some of these I'm familiar with and some I was not, but I was appreciative of people making these suggestions, is Expensify. I believe that's well, it tracks your expenses and it'll keep your receipts. There's our fees for these. Neat Receipts is a scanner that then attaches the receipts to a location in the cloud. Somebody mentioned Keep Receipts, which I had never heard of. Somebody else, Smart Receipts. And again, these would be using your phone to take a picture and then uploading or scanning on a device and then uploading. And then somebody else mentioned Dex.com. So I'll let you evaluate those choices. We might do an evaluation in the future, but for now, many of you just keep as simple as you can, right? Make the right thing simple. And if you're working with crews, large crews that maybe don't have phones, don't have smartphones, or don't speak English language, and the training might be a little more difficult to get them to take pictures and manually upload into the cloud for those receipts, right? There's some of those challenges. So what is the way to make the right thing easy? And then again, why do we even need to bother? Why do we need to keep them, right? So there are several reasons to keep those receipts, and it's important that we share these reasons with our team members, with our staff, with our employees, with our spouse, other people that volunteers that are helping us if we're running nonprofits. But you need the proof of those major expenses. You need the proof of what you're spending the money on, right? You need proof for warranties. You might have a piece of equipment, you can't find a warranty. It's like, oh, is that 18 months or is that 2 years? You're like, I don't know, I bought it sometime in the past, right? So you need that information. Obviously, if you wanted to return or exchange, that might, the receipt would become helpful. I think anymore, many stores and sellers and vendors have you in their systems. So if you wanted a return or exchange, you probably would be brought up almost immediately with or without the receipt. So I don't know that that one's as relative as it might have been at one time. Those employees or your team members, your volunteers who want to be reimbursed for expenses. I have nonprofits sometimes that are reimbursing reimbursing employees, but they oftentimes reimburse volunteers as well based on, oh, this is about what I spent. You need the receipt in order to do that, especially if you're dealing with any type of grant funds, state or federal monies, right? Reconciling. Let's just reconcile the statements, see where we spent our money. You might even take a moment and take those receipts and staple them to that statement or paperclip. I'm more keen on paperclips now than I used to be, because oftentimes you want to undo the stapler and it leaves holes. But anyway, paperclip those statements to that, or paperclip those receipts to the statement, and then save them in a storage area. You can also just PDF the statements in the cloud, right? Save the PDFs and they're up there forever, or until you decide to, that you no longer need them. And then of course, for those tax deductions. And the rule of thumb is a 3-year window, and in addition to this year. However, if there's evidence of any kind of fraudulent activity or that you're not doing things correctly, then the state and federal governments have the right to go back even longer than that. I have a client now, it's a small restaurant, they've been growing, but they had some sales tax issues, and it's normally a 3-year window. And the state has come back to them and said, no, we're going to go back and to the time that you first opened. And so that's a little bit of a, thank goodness they do have their records, and they do have the statements and the receipts that they need. But it's like, it came as a little bit of a surprise. And it was because there was some question for restaurants now, is there some double paying of sales tax by the delivery service companies and then the restaurant themselves. So if the restaurants go back to file amended sales tax returns, that's becoming an issue. So you just something totally not related to the topic, but came in as a, oh, by the way. Oftentimes on my conversations, we get the, oh, by the way. So again, this little snippet this morning is to help you make the right thing easy, just like we do with horses and horse training, as we make the right thing easy so that they can say yes. If they know the answer and they can say yes, and you've made it easy, then you have a great partnership. The same thing with your team members, the same thing with your employees, your volunteers, is if you can make the right things easy. Also for yourself, a comment that I read over and over in my Facebook responses from people in the groups, that they would purchase a scanner, that they would subscribe to the services, fully intending to use, and then it'd be sitting, in fact, one of the comments was, oh, and it's sitting right here next to me and I haven't used it in several months. So it has to be easy for you here as well. Make the right thing easy. And if it's not easy, I can guarantee that a business owner, a manager for a nonprofit, not a rancher, or farmer, you're not going to do it if it's not easy. So keep that simple system, make it easy, and you'll get it done. So thank you so very much for joining me today, and I look forward to supporting you. And let's wrap up your bookkeeping before the end of the year, and we will talk with you soon.